Welcome back to another episode of the In the Game interview series. We've got with us today Dave Luna. Dave, why don't you give us your story?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Reed. Always a pleasure. My name is Dave Luna. I'm the head coach at ASA College in Miami. We're a junior college, Division I junior college. And I've been here now for 4 years. We're nationally recognized, nationally ranked, up-and-coming program, playing a very difficult conference here in Florida. I came from Johnson & Wales University. I was the associate head coach there for about 4.5 years. They're an NAI program in the Sun Conference. Before that, I kind of bounced around quite a bit. And we could probably sit here just in an hour and just telling you where I've been. But coach Division I, coach Division II, been in the NAIA, obviously, and obviously in JUCO now. I played at the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. I'm originally from Boston. I'm a New England guy. Played in Connecticut, then bounced over. I was in Europe for about 4 or 5 years. Played in Sweden, played in Denmark, bounced around, chasing the dream that we all love and want. Realized I wasn't going to be a Messi or Ronaldo, so came back stateside. Played in the NAISL for a bit, and UPSL, a couple different leagues. Played in Rhode Island, played in Massachusetts, played for the Long Island Rough Riders. A couple different places all over. But obviously continued coaching in club and things like that, and then continued college, and here we are today. So
yeah. So chasing the ball all over the world, basically, right?
Yeah, man. You just gotta live the dream, and so we did a couple other things in some interims in there, but always seemed to find myself coming back to the soccer and coming back to coaching. It's one of those things, right, that they say it's a calling, it's a passion, and it's something that I definitely enjoy. So, yeah, here we are.
The game always brings you back.
Absolutely.
So speaking on that, why do you coach? What do you feel like really draws you to that?
I like winning. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I do like winning, but that's
yes, you do.
Really, the reality is that I like how I can lend a hand, somewhat affect people's lives. For a long time there, on the club side, I really enjoyed helping kids move on to the next step. The recruiting process from the club to the college is something that I've always really, really liked. It's almost like a thrill. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle that you got to kind of figure out. And you can't do it alone, right? You need support. You need help. And it's definitely something that you can show as a resource, and you can get knee deep, dig in there with the families and the player, and definitely sort it out for them. So that's always something that I've definitely liked. And then obviously as a coach, no matter what the level, whether it's club, high school, college, being able to see these kids find success in whatever path they want, go on, move on, and then come back and kind of relate a little bit. And it's great to see. Whether you get the thank you or you don't get the thank you, that's kind of not the point. It's really just being a part of these kids' process, a part of the players' process, and then seeing them go through the process and find their own successes.
Yeah. Do you think that's why you've kind of gravitated in the last few years really to the junior college level, because you kind of it's outside of club, but you still got to get that kind of experience of kind of helping those kids find that next experience for themselves?
No, absolutely. I've definitely enjoyed the junior college level. Like I said, I've been in all the levels, so I understand the differences and things. But we're in a situation where I get to bring in players from all those levels. And then we get to compete at a level that we get to play very good soccer. And then, a junior college coach their job is a little unique, where they're recruiting players just like everyone else in. But then at the back end, we're quickly overturning and turning over a roster and recruiting them out on the other end. So yeah, I've definitely enjoyed that. I've been fortunate as well, been able to place, about 90% of my kids, 95% of my kids in schools, and get them offers and opportunities. And, they've all kind of taken their own paths. Some of them have decided to take more of an academic education role and kind of leave the game. A lot of them, though, most of them have moved on and continued their careers at all different types of schools, Division I, Division II, NAIAs, D3s, and moved on. And then I've been fortunate that in our program, I've also moved on a handful of girls right to the professional game. So, we've definitely had an array of talent and a good selection of the levels.
Yeah, I think obviously, Dave, I've known you for quite a while, and I think your situation was very similar to the one that I took over, and that the cupboard was kind of bare when you took over, and I think you've done a great job there as far as really building the program. Obviously, you play in one of the toughest regions in junior college women's soccer, being down in Florida. So I think you've definitely got your work cut out for you for sure. But I think so far you've done a great job. So
Appreciate that.
No worries. What style do you typically prefer to play with your teams?
Yeah, so this is kind of a loaded question for me. I mean, this is the generic answer. I like to possess the ball. But I grew up in a Latin American family. So I grew up. I was fortunate. My dad played professional soccer. He's from El Salvador. Played in El Salvador. Came here. Played a little bit as well. So I understood like the tiki taka, very very individual talent. Your typical Central and South American soccer. That's how I grew up. But growing up in Massachusetts and kind of being able to get that, I guess that flavor of the European style, and then moving on myself and playing within Europe, you kind of see a different side of it, right? You kind of grow up in a different world other than what you're hearing and seeing at home. And then, so those conversations have blended me. And, over the years, you move on, you see different coaches, you adhere to different philosophies. So I would say we're a possession orientated type, program, and I'm a possession orientated type team. But I like to play fast.
Yeah.
I was a forward at heart. I was a striker. I was a 9. So scoring goals was my favorite thing to do. Watching goals is my favorite thing to do. So I like to get into the attacking third as quickly as possible, in control, under possession. But I want to do everything with a purpose. So I want to get into the attacking third as fast as you can, be dangerous in the attacking third, but then also I want to be organized defensively. It's so weird because as a player, all about just whatever. I'll score 10 goals if you score 9 on me. I'll score 11 if you score 10. But as a coach, you definitely tend to wheel it back a little bit and be like, hey, we got to get organized. We got to sort it out. We have to understand what our roles and our responsibilities are in that regard. And so I've definitely become a more defensive coach as I've matured, grown, and gone through, all the processes. But yeah, that's definitely what it is. It's more of a possession, fast-paced, under control with a purpose.
Yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that. I was a goal scorer in college, lots of points in my last 2 years, and one of the first things that I did as a coach was we spend more time defending than we do attacking. Obviously, we spend quite a bit of time on how we want to attack as a group, but we always use the term possession with a purpose, which you were obviously talking about. But yeah, we as somebody who was a more attacking player, I spend much more time working defensively with my team than I do attacking wise, because it's much easier for us to win 1-0 than it is to win 5-4. So. So that's I think we are very very similar in that kind of mold. So what's one of your favorite activities to do with your team?
So again, going to what we do, a lot of possession. I'm a huge rondo guy. I know that I'm probably not up with times, quote unquote. But I like to do different versions of it. Experiment. I like a lot of transition. A lot of you're able to put players in positions where they got to think, and that's the biggest thing. I want these kids to make decisions. I want no matter what the level, whether it's the highest level at the semi-pro, pro, or college level, down to the youth. I want them to think. I want to put them in positions where they have to make decisions. They're being forced to make decisions, quick decisions, seconds. And what's that look like? What's it feel like? How does it emotionally make you feel? How does it, soccer IQ, what's it making you think? Where are you on the pitch to make the right decision? Do I have to play quick to get out? Do I have time to dribble? Because I think that too many times that we get away from that. Hey, don't dribble. You got to play 1-2 quick. But there are moments of the game where you can dribble. There are moments, and in a Rondo situation, if you give him the freedom and the ability to do that, then you can start seeing some different paths that the game kind of creates. I think that obviously worldwide, this is a game that's played on the street. And they kind of develop that way, and then they get structured. And that's kind of what you're trying to create, that all those different variables. And so that's what I like to do a lot of.
Yeah, I think, it goes back to there's always a different way that you can do the same activity. Now, we could play 5v2 rondos every day at the beginning of training, but it's very, very different if I say you're playing 1-touch, you're playing 2-touch, you're unlimited. It just opens things up. That there's always a different spin you can put on the same activity to get something different out of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what's one of your favorite coaching memories?
There's a lot. But I think one of my more recent ones was probably this year. And it was probably not a positive one. but it's definitely one that we learned. We were playing against Daytona State in a region semifinal game. I thought we played very well. We outpossessed them. We were probably maybe the better team on the field that day, but we lost. And so walking off that field, obviously everyone's devastated. Things are going on. I'm graduating a big class. One of my first recruits that I had brought into ASA, who because of eligibility and ESL and whatever, still here 4 years later, comes up to me and she's graduating, she's moving on, and she's moving on to a D2, and she says to me, she's like, "This is probably the best memory and a memory that I'll never forget because of how we played, even though we lost." So as we're walking off the field and just kind of being able to take that moment with that player, and then kind of, throughout all my players, recognizing that we had lost, and it was a devastating loss. We lost in the double overtime, the last minute. We were really preparing to go to PKs, and we just made a silly error. And we were still able to walk away with some positivities, and it really took a player that has been with me for quite a while, right? A couple of years, to kind of put that perspective into myself and our coaching staff. So it just kind of reminded me a little bit more recently of why we love doing this.
Yeah.
Even in those moments of a loss and a devastating, pain that you just lost, you're able to still to take a step back and be like, yeah, back at it. We're going to be here again, and we're going to be in this conversation, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah. Perspective is a powerful thing.
It is, man.
It can be very easy to be short-sighted and think about, this year we're so much better and we're doing these things, and then, something like that happens and you're just heartbroken, and you kind of lose sight of things for a little bit, and so you take a step back and really think about how far you've come to get there, and that kind of goes along with some of the things we've kind of talked about in some of these episodes before you've been on. We've kind of talked about kind of taking a step back and kind of taking time to realize, what have we done as a program, or what have I done as a coach, and what could we do differently, and what's allowed us to be successful, and how much self-reflection is really important in our profession.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you feel like is the most important piece of being a coach?
Oh, so I mean, there's quite a few things, right? But I think the most important thing for me personally is how I affect the ones around me. How can I affect their journey? We hope that it's a positive effect,
yeah.
But unfortunately it's not always that the case. So if it's still a negative effect for whatever the reason, can they still walk away with something positive? and so that I constantly, in everything, our team talks from day one, our introductions, in these difficult times, we're all away from our teams. A lot of us are still having, Zoom meetings with our teams, Zoom one-on-ones, video conferences. We're all trying to keep everybody engaged, stay connected, and kind of take a look, and you're saying, somebody asked me a couple of days ago, like, why are you guys still doing that? A non-soccer person.
Yeah.
You guys still doing that? Your semester's almost over. Majority of your team's graduating. And I'm like, there's more to it than that, So for me, it's like, how am I affecting them? What are we doing every day so that they can have a memory that lasts? And even as a player, and I'm sure you relate, now, it's post 15, 20, 25 years from some of our glory days. We don't remember the wins and losses necessarily, maybe the big ones, but the day-to-day ones we don't. You don't remember the all the activities or all the sessions. But you definitely remember the bus rides. Mm-hmm. You remember the locker banter. You definitely remember the conversations that you had with a coach in their office. You definitely remember the motivational speeches or the not unmotivational speeches with some choice words. But you remember those things. Mm-hmm. And you look at it and you're like, hey, I put myself, and I was put in an environment where I was affected because of my coach and his staff. And I was fortunate, and I had a positive experience, and I have positive memories with my teammates, with my team. We were successful as well, in college and even after college with my other teams like that. So I personally want to know, like, hey, what can I do today to positively affect my group as an individual and as a team?
Yeah. I think that's the real balance, really, right? Is can I want to affect the whole, but can I affect each person individually as well? And I think it's a balancing act. And obviously, with working in the college game, we get a little bit more hands-on than some of the other some coaches that only coach club or even maybe high school. So we get to see our kids every day. And, even at D3 with our limitations, I still try to make sure that I'm still being a part of those players' lives as much as possible. And, we're doing a lot of those same things that you're talking about with our program, with the Zoom meetings and all that good stuff. We just had one earlier today that I thought was pretty good. So, I think you're spot on. It's about affecting the whole and the individual at the same time, for sure. So with working at the junior college level, what do you feel like, other than, how quickly you have to turn your squad over, what do you feel like your biggest battles are?
Yeah, there's a lot of negative stigmas, when you're out there, you're recruiting a player. Obviously you're recruiting the player and the family, right? Division I's always the highlight. I think we do it and I say we because I coach club soccer. Mm-hmm. I think on the club side, we do sometimes a very, very disservice to a lot of these players because we highlight the Division I programs. We talk about the Division I programs. We talk about that. So you kind of get that ingrained in players' mind, D1, D1, D1. And then, over time, some of them start realizing, hey, I'm not a D1 player. So then it's D2, D2, D2. But we don't necessarily explore the whole picture. Mm-hmm. The college game, there are D2s that can beat D1. There are NAIA programs that can beat D1s and D2s. And there are JUCO programs that can beat all of them, we're fortunate, for my program specifically, we play Division II programs, we play NAIA programs, we play D1 programs, and we stay competitive with every single one of them. And in fact, we've beaten our fair share of Division I, Division II, and NAIA programs on any given day. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest struggles that we have is that stigma that, oh, it's junior college. They want D1 first, then maybe a D2, then maybe a D3 or an NAIA. And then the last thing that they want to look at is a junior college, which sometimes it's the opposite. There's a lot of advantages, and there's a lot of perks, and there's a lot of reasons why some kids and some players should go JUCO. You know, I'm a huge fit guy, so I want it to fit. Like I want you to fit the program as a player, and I want the program to fit you, the player, and it's got to be cohesive, like a glove almost. You know, and everyone's situation is different, and we all know that. You know, on the other side, and everyone has an individual path. But what can you look at? You know, like junior college financially is always going to be a better option. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, especially with the rising price of secondary education at a 4-year institution. Just financially, junior college is always going to be much, much cheaper. You know, so there's so much perks. And then if you go to a Division I junior college, scholarship wise, you know, Division I junior college in the United States has 24 allotted scholarships. That's more scholarships than every other level. So there's more money to be distributed and given. But a lot of people don't know that, right? That's a a lot of miseducation, a lot of misinterpretation, a lot of lack of communication. Again, but it falls back on us on the club side. If we're not doing it collectively and, you know, the same voice from one club to the next, even though we may be competitors on the field, when we're in the classroom talking about recruiting, if we're not all promoting that, then, you know, it becomes a negative one because, you know, like you might have player 1 and player 2, they don't play in the same club, but they go to the same school. Player 1's being told D1, D1, D1. Player 2's being told, hey, you need to explore whatever option's best for you. So player 2 might be looking at a D2 and a D3 or NAI or a JUCO, but because they're friends, like, no, you got to go D1. Now you have that social pressure where am I picking the right level? Am I looking at the right school? Even though those schools might be right for that one player. Yeah. And so again, if we're not collectively saying something together as club coaches, then we put a lot of misconceptions. And I speak JUCO because that's where I'm at now, but it's true for all the other levels as well.
Well, I think it goes back to what you were talking about as far as fit. You know, I think you know, there's the big thing that is always talked about with kids going JUCO, which is, you know, their academics aren't good. You know, I think that is a big, obviously you have kids on your team that have a 4.0 right now, I guarantee it. And I think it's a big misconception that all players that go to play junior college are either not good enough or they have bad grades. You know, I think, obviously I'm a big proponent of it. I think I call you probably every August and ask, what do I have a shot at this year? You know, and in both of the programs that I've been a head coach at in college level, you know, I've always immediately tried to look at the junior colleges close to me, and obviously with me being in North Carolina and you being in Florida, you know, I've still tried to get your players up to North Carolina as well, because I think it's great to bring a player in that already has some of those experiences, and I think at junior college, with being a freshman and sophomore, you're getting those leadership experiences right away because there aren't seniors there, you know. So even if you're coming in as a freshman, you only have a player a year older than you. You know, you've got to step in right away, and you've got to figure out how you can make an impact in the program because, you know, if you want to keep playing, you've got to make that impact so you can move on. You know, so I think absolutely, I think there's definitely a huge benefit to going to play 2 years at a junior college as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you know, like our team here in Miami, we're an all-American academic team. We have a 3.78 GPA, and I have a large roster, so you're talking about 30 some odd girls all coming in, and we're all averaging a 3.7. You know, that's pretty high. Our graduation's 99%. You know,
pretty good.
We're very internationally kind of top heavy a little bit. But I have 5 players on my team that play for their national team. 3 of which have played in the World Cup. 1 of which who won the Ballon d'Or at the U20 last World Cup. And she belongs to Bayern Munich. You know, and so when you look at some of the players, and sometimes, you know, you get the, oh yeah, junior college is not good enough. And then in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I don't know if you would crack my starting 11, but we're still interested in you.
Yeah.
But they won't give us the time of day. So, you know, those are the little things sometimes. You know, obviously we just try to educate and we try to get the word out as much as possible for junior college, because I think that you're absolutely right. You know, and you know this, as a freshman, there's a lot of unanswered questions when you're coming into college. You know, how are you going to transition socially? How are you going to transition, academically? How are you going to transition on the field? How are you going to transition personally? Whereas a junior college transfer, all those answered and all those unanswered questions are all answered. They have a GPA, they've lived the college life, so they know the work's classroom balance. They know how to manage their time. They have stats, so you know how they're gonna do on the field. They have film.
Yeah.
Against other college teams, and then socially, well, that's a simple question. You just ask the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Partier, are they this? Are they that? How would they transition? Are they showing up? Are they showing up on time? Are they handling their business? And so those are things that we can definitely answer. And I think that there's a lot of benefits transitioning out of junior college.
For sure. What advice do you have for young coaches in general? What you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, my biggest advice, and I think the biggest thing that's helped me, and I know you and I have talked about this on a personal side, is you got to get out there and just learn, and network. You got a question, don't be afraid to ask. I can't even, I ask a lot of questions and I love learning, and we're all just students of the game, forever, especially as coaches. We've become more professional students of the game, but we just got to keep learning, and you got to ask questions. You got to surround yourself with all different types of coaches, get out of that comfort zone, become friends with a D3 coach or someone that's on a D3 program, become friends with an NAIA staff member, become friends with, a D2 staff member, and then some, become friends with some guys that are in the D1 level, understand what the differences are, ask questions about their challenges. Don't be afraid to ask about your challenges, because 9 times out of 10, either that player or that coach has already experienced those challenges or knows somebody that has and has an answer, and if you ask enough people, you're going to find the right answer. But networking is the biggest one, especially when we go recruiting, especially when you're out in the field, especially when you're, able to have conversations with other coaches. Definitely have them and network.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is, if you look at some of these coaches at big time programs as being, not almost not human, I think I can remember back to a time where me and you were sitting at a coach's social at Disney, and Mark Krikorian walked up and started a conversation with us, and we probably sat there and talked with Mark for probably 45 minutes. For those of you that don't know, Mark Krikorian is the head coach at Florida State and has won a national championship. So for him to take the time to talk to a junior college head coach and a D2 head coach at that time was, it's an eye-opening experience that, these guys are coaches, or these guys and girls are coaches, and they're open to other coaches being a part of it, and they want to help. And, it goes a long way if you go up to introduce yourself and actually talk to them.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you being on with us today. We wish you the best of luck. Hopefully you're able to stay sane as we go through all this madness.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it, Reed. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.